It's a pleasure for us, of course, to be here and present during the first day of this huge event that Eva and the VPA team organized. And of course, as Eva was saying, if you are wondering what investing for impact is, how we use all the different definitions, you are in the right place. So I'm Alessia Giannoncelli, Head of Knowledge, Community and Market Development, and I will guide you through some concepts today. And I'm glad to be here with my colleague Gianluca, Research Manager at the VPA, who will present to you some practical cases linked to our concepts. But for those of you who don't know us yet or know only a little bit about EVPA, I would like to give you a super short introduction on who we are. So we are a network of what we call investors for impact. But of course, we welcome in our membership base also those organizations that are on a journey to start investing for impact, all those organizations that are interested in understanding more and in researching on investing for impact. And last but not least, we welcome in our membership base all those that are interested in collaborating with investors for impact. We are a community of about 300 practitioners and organizations, mostly based in Europe, Western and Central Eastern Europe. And we define ourselves as a market builder, because also thanks to the partnership with the European Commission, and this event is part of this partnership that we started in 2014, through all our activities, events, content production, facilitating of connections, we really aim at building the ecosystem, the impact ecosystem, the wider impact ecosystem. And of course, we also like to define ourselves as a policy and knowledge hub, because we have developed strong skills in really putting together content, insights, in developing research, also linked to policy. In a nutshell, this is our vision. So we really believe in a world where philanthropy and investment can combine to drive societal impact. We identified different roles as part of our community. And as you can see in this slide, we have capital providers as part of our membership base. So impact funds, foundations, financial institutions, asset managers, institutional investors, incubators and accelerators, in case they are already providing capital. And just for you to know, be prepared with your phones, because after this slide, I will ask you a question about what kind of organization you represent in the space. So I will give you now the intro, and then I will ask you a question to understand better who is online today with us. So to continue, market builders are also part of the ecosystem, of course. So all the organizations similar to ours, so other networks, other movement, infrastructure organizations. And then in terms of the third role, of course, as already said, we identify policy shapers, meaning EU institutions, national, regional, but also local governments and multilateral organizations. And then we have capacity builders, so academia, think tanks, research institutions, service providers, and incubators and accelerators, in case they don't provide financial support, but capacity building. And as last role, we identify media. So now there will be a short poll, and Gianluca will be launching. It's already translated in Russian. I won't read the slide, of course, but you can start clicking, going to this website, slide.com, or using the QR code, and you will be able to answer and identify yourselves. Of course, we have included also a category which is other, that is normally one of the best options, in the sense that if you are confused about all these roles, you can put other, and then it would be great to, if you have included other, to write in the chat what kind of organizations you represent.
Alessia, there is a request to put the definitions back again.
Yeah.
If you could put the definitions back again.
Yes, so Gianlu, if you can assist me with that. Voila, so these are the definitions. And then I think that, yeah, Gianlu, you are seeing more or less how many people already replied, and then we can wait a few minutes and close the poll, so we can have an understanding about the audience.
I've seen some votes were already coming in. Right now I'm showing the slides, so I cannot see the votes, but I'll really strongly suggest all the participants and the attendees to participate to this poll, because we will have other polls during the presentation, and it will always be, you can always respond joining just the first poll. So please stay also there after you finalize this vote, as there will be other polls coming in.
Yeah, and maybe while we wait with the data from the survey in 2014, for example, so 7 years ago, you will see that this number was 2%. This means that the market now is really growing in CE. We believe that EVPA played also a fundamental and instrumental role in developing the market there and in mobilizing resources for CE. Of course, there are much more information in the industry survey. You can see the link, and we will share the link afterwards. But now we have some minutes for some questions, and I've seen questions already popping up. So maybe, Gianluca, you can, yeah, you can tell me if there are questions that we should address immediately, and then Gianluca will present you practical cases. So let me know.
Yeah, there is a question, but it's from the session before, so
Okay.
I'll take maybe the chance to tell all the attendees that they can drop their questions in the chat as we are presenting. There is dedicated panel section in the panel for Q&A, and we will devote some time to address them. So really feel free to drop your question. As we haven't received any yet, maybe I'll suggest we move forward, and then if you have some specific question for Alessia, feel free again to drop them in the specific part of the control panel. I'll then maybe start with my my presentation. I would like really to drive you through some of the principles of investing for impact. I will start by presenting you the Charter of Investors for Impact. The Charter should be interpreted as a set of guiding principles for all those that are on a journey of investing for impact. We acknowledge that other capital providers relate to some of these principles, but we believe that the collective set of these principles reflects the DNA of Investors for Impact. I won't go in depth into all of the principles, but I would like to stress that, as you can see here, principle 5, 6, and 7 represents the 3 core practices that Alessia presented before. And this afternoon, you will have the chance to deep dive into each one of these practices, joining the workshop of this afternoon. In the next 20 minutes, I will select other 3 principles, and I will really showcase some results from our data collection, like Alessia did before, but also present some practical cases from the CE region in order to explain how these principles work in practice. Before that, I'll invite you to have a look at our dedicated webpage to the Charter, where you can also sign in, where you can also sign the Charter and individually endorse its principles if you recognize their relevance. I'd start by talking about principle number 2, which talks about final beneficiaries. And as you can see, and as you will see on the webpage, each principle is linked to 3 sub-sentences that are aimed at describing a bit what we mean for the principle of the charter. So in this case, this principle states that investors for impact put the final beneficiaries at the center of the solution. This means that they support solutions co-created with final beneficiaries. They encourage the social purpose organizations to proactively involve the beneficiaries in their activities. And finally, investors for impact are primarily accountable to final beneficiaries. I'd like now to ask you again a new poll. So that's talking about final beneficiaries. I'm asking you, what is for you the most targeted category of final beneficiaries by investors for impact? As you can see, we have different categories. I'm asking you to identify really the most targeted one. We have children and youth. We have people with disabilities. There are migrants and refugees, women, elderly, people in poverty, and unemployed. So if you already accessed the poll before, you should be able to already see the next this question, and I already see some answers are getting in. I'll take the chance to thank my colleagues that helped me with the Russian translation. So I really hope it reflects what is written in English. But I'll maybe give you now some extra seconds as I see responses coming in, and I'll take the chance to also remind you and tell you that you can find all this information and all these statistics available on our webpage, and we will share the link soon to our industry survey report. So I see we have already more than 20 answers. So I really invite you all to take part of this poll, because we're really curious to also compare our results with the perceptions of attendees. And we believe that's a great opportunity to also collect your views and impressions. So I'll show you now the results. Yeah, the majority of you guessed people in poverty, and I see actually still even with children and youth, and I actually am quite surprised by showing that people in poverty and children and youth were actually the categories of final beneficiaries most targeted by investors for impact. As you can see, half of investors for impact reported to target people in poverty as one of the different categories of final beneficiaries that they were targeting. So it's important to stress also here that this question was a multiple choice, and obviously investors for impact can target different categories of final beneficiaries at the same time. I'll now present you the first case, and I will start by presenting the case that showcases an investor for impact, Erste Foundation, who some of you may know. In 2013, the Erste Foundation launched, together with other organizations, the Erste Foundation Roma Partnership to support initiatives that tackle the issue with a bottom-up approach. And we will talk about this partnership on Roma because the investee is Romani Design. So in 2010, Erika Varga and her sister Elena founded Romani Design, the first Roma fashion studio using fashion and design to create bridges between Roma and non-Roma. Its aim is to break stereotypes, popularize the Roma culture and community, and also serve the cultural and economic needs of the Roma society by creating employment for disadvantaged Roma women and train them as seamstresses. I'd like now to show you the support that was provided by Erste. So the support provided by Erste was both financial and non-financial. Since 2012, Erste Foundation has provided a total grant of more than 200,000 euros in several tranches. But Romani also received a loan from Erste Bank Hungary with a credit limit amount of more than 200,000 euros. On top of this grant and loan, Romani also benefited from EU funding to work on education, like training and workshops. In terms of non-financial support provided, which is always central for Investors for Impact, Erste Foundation started helping Romani in 2012 with organizational development. It provided some financial training and worked with consulting company in Budapest in order to improve their social business plan, which was crucial. Erste Foundation also helped them create their website and blog. Luckily, we developed a success story, a video that I'm very happy to show you now if the technology assists me. So hopefully you'll be able to see the video and also hear the audio. So let's, in a second, change the screen I'm sharing. So should be able to listen and look at this video.
És egészen kicsi korunktól mi magunk is szembesültünk azzal a mássággal, és a másságunkat érintő különböző reakciókkal, amik egészen az általános iskolás picikortól érnek minket. Ugye. A Romani missziója a romákról való kommunikáció egy újfajta csatornán keresztül, ami a divat és a design.
Sziasztok, Juli vagyok, én egy magyar énekesnő, dalszerző vagyok Budapestről. És amit Erikáék csinálnak, az egy fantasztikusan jó dolog, és megmutatja azt, hogy például ezekkel a ruhákkal, amiket ők létrehoznak, nagyon jó kapcsolatot építenek roma és nem roma emberek között, és nagyon sok ugyanilyen tehetséges, jóra való ember van a romák között, mint ők. És jó lenne, hogyha inkább ezeket a példákat látnánk, és nem lennének előítéleteink.
Erste Foundation Roma Partnership is a program stimulating local Roma communities and NGOs to start initiatives in social entrepreneurship. The support for Romani is financial and non-financial, so we gave them a grant and we gave them consultancy related to the development of the social business. We also facilitated a loan from Erste Bank for a bridge loan some years ago. Romani design comes with an interesting perspective in looking at discrimination. So they are fighting the stereotypes through fashion. And I think this is something that we would like to also share in other countries.
És hát nemzetközi eseményeken is volt már szerencsénk részt venni, így Párizsban, Delhiben, Mumbaiban, Berlinben. Most készülünk, fogunk menni Brüsszelbe, a brüsszeli Fashion Weekre. Annak örülnék, hogyha még az én életemben, tehát megérhetném azt, hogy hozzá tudtunk tenni ahhoz a munkához, hogy részt tudnánk venni abban a folyamatban, hogy az emberek valóban újra gondolják mindazt, amit a romákkal tesznek, gondolnak és tenni akarnak.
I hope the audio was good, and I'll go back to the PowerPoint presentation. So you should see now my screen back. I hope the video, you heard the video right and really inspired you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody.
And yeah, I think Sophie.
We're waiting an extra minute. I see 30 participants.
I can hear.
It's increasing fastly, but let's wait.
I don't know whether it's only me, but I'm hearing a colleague of mine.
Yes.
In the background. Okay. But,
yes.
So it's not only me.
Perfect. No, we were hearing Sophie. Well,
okay, so hopefully
now it's sold. Yes.
Okay, then we can move forward. Okay, so you can actually see that we developed also a case.
I think we can start while other
I think we haven't
So good afternoon to
We
all.
haven't solved the
Thank
problem
you
with
very
Sophie
much
yet.
for being with us for this session to
No,
discuss
so Sona, if you
collective
can
corporate
mute
impact.
Yeah, maybe
Sophie.
someone.
Sure. Give me a second.
I have the pleasure to
Don't worry, I think
welcome
Or
with my
probably
colleagues
download the link.
from EVP Corporate Initiative.
that's actually my
Caroline
fault.
Heitman,
Now
Corporate
that I
Yes.
realize,
Manager, and
sorry.
We have too many videos to
behind the
Yeah,
scene.
it's
Thank
the
you very much for
automatic.
putting this session.
Sorry, it's the automatic videos of YouTube that was going on. So sorry.
So at least everyone can see that we also record our webinars, and you can go on our webpage and access all the recordings.
I'm very sorry for that. And let's continue now with the second principle that I would like to present today, which is principle number 3, that states that investors for impact are highly engaged for the long term, striving for lasting impact. So usually investors for impact take active ownership of the societal challenge and work very closely with a social purpose organization to tackle it. They also look for solutions that have the potential to be impactful in the long term, and they also strive to support social purpose organizations that can reach deeper social impact at scale. I would like to ask you a couple of goals for this specific principle. The first one looks and it's really on at which stage you think the investment, at which stage of the investment is non-financial support mostly provided. So as you can imagine, non-financial support can be provided before, during, and after the investment. And we have collected data on this, and we would like to understand from you what is the stage of the investment, if it's before, during, or after, where this non-financial support is mostly provided. Again, I'll give you some seconds to answer. Maybe I'll obviously, as you may imagine, this question was a multiple choice again, so investors can provide non-financial support at all 3 of these stages. But I think, again, it would be very interesting to understand what's your perception of that and how you see what is the stage of the investment where you think investors are providing non-financial support. And I'll take the chance to say that we have a dedicated page in our interactive report. So Alessia shared the link in the chat. There is a dedicated page of non-financial support. So if you're interested in understanding what type of non-financial support are provided, and also the different ways in which non-financial support is delivered, I'll really strongly suggest you to have a look at our interactive report. So I'll now show the results. I would say surprisingly, the majority of you mentioned, reported before the investment as really the investment stage where non-financial support is mostly provided. And I'll now show the results from the survey, which actually shows that non-financial support is mostly provided during the investment, because that's also part of our definition of investing for impact. So there has to be both a financial and non-financial support during the investment. But what is interesting to notice is that what we always say it's very relevant to notice is that a high proportion of investors is providing support also before and after the investment. And the non-financial support before the investment is definitely crucial to strengthen and professionalize the SPO. But what I would like to stress here is the high percentage of investors that provide non-financial support also after the investment, because this really shows how investors for impact are engaged in the long term and are really striving for lasting impact. I'd like now to ask you a second question that actually looks at the different ways in which investors for impact preserve impact after exit. So again, I'll strongly suggest you to take your phone and vote. Here are different ways in which investors for impact can preserve impact after exit. And the question is really to select the one that for you is the one primarily used by investors for impact. The first one is selecting only investees that have impact embedded in their business model. This would ensure that even after the exit, the impact will be there because in line with the business model and embedded into it. It could be also through inserting impact considerations in the mission of the investee. That's another technique that has been reported by our investors to really prevent the risk of mission drift and the risk that after their exit, the impact considerations will become somehow secondary. And the third option would be to select like-minded follow-on investors. This is also another technique used by Investors for Impact because this would ensure that the follow-on investors are posing the same focus on the impact dimension of the social purpose organization, mitigating the risk of, again, a mission drift. So I'll now show the results, and I'm very happy to observe actually that you have selected, the majority of you selected the right answer, which is selecting only investees that have impact embedded in their business model. As you can see from the graph, this is really the most common way, let's say, in which Investors for Impact try to preserve the impact after the exit. But as I just mentioned, there are different ways in which Investors for Impact can do that. I'd like now to present the second case, which features TISE as an Investors for Impact. TISE is a social and economic investment company based in Poland. TISE's mission is to provide financial and advisory services to supporting the development of local initiatives for sustainable growth, in particular in the area of social economy and the growth of micro, small, and medium-sized businesses, NGOs, and social enterprises by granting loans. The investee is Kvernokova Foundation, which is based in Bratislava. Its aim is to maintain and expand the existing ecosystem of artists, innovators, and developers who started in the original Kvernokova community in a new location and under one roof to build a creative, cultural, and social center in Bratislava. With regards to the support provided, in 2017, TISE provided a 7-year loan, which is quite of a long-term commitment for, it's a long-time commitment for a loan and shows the long-term engagement of TISE. And this loan was of 350,000 euros, and they were initially given to achieve two main objectives. First, finalize the initial investment into the building to prepare the studio space, as well as renovate the open space that would be used for the public cultural events, which were very important for this community. With respect to the non-financial support, while finalizing details of the contract, TISE extensively studied the different budget scenarios with the founders of Kvernokova, advising them on the best option in terms of revenue strategy and financial management. This would not only allow Kvernokova to meet the requirements and repay the loan, but it also ensured that they would be sustainable, financially sustainable in the long term. In 2018, we published a case study dedicated to Kvernokova Foundation, and you can download it for free on our website and following the link that my colleague Alessia will share soon in the chat. Moving forward to the third and last principle I will talk about today. This principle really talks about collaboration and the importance of collaboration. Investors for Impact proactively enhance collaboration with others. They often go beyond supporting individual social purpose organizations to achieve systemic change and lasting positive change at scale, by also focusing on building and enabling ecosystem at regional, national, and global scale. Investors for Impact acknowledge the importance of collaborating with their peers when it creates value for the solution, as well as they recognize the value of collaborating with others in the ecosystem, including the public sector, traditional philanthropic organizations, NGOs, investors with impact, and corporations, aligning on a long-term vision. They're really proactive in the way in which they stress the importance of collaboration and finding the right partnership. Before presenting you the last case, I'd like to ask you the last question. And I'm asking you, with which partner Investors for Impact are collaborating the most? Is it with public institutions, with incubators and accelerators, with academics, with NGOs, or with foundations? And I'd like to stress here that for collaboration, we are talking about other types of collaboration than co-investment. So co-investment was a separate question that we asked, while this one was really focusing on other types of collaboration. And if you would be interested in learning more also about co-investment, there is a dedicated page on the interactive report to co-investment and collaboration. I see some votes are coming in again. That's great, and I'm very curious to see the results. So maybe I can already jump to the results as you're still voting. And I see incubators and accelerators and NGOs are the two most voted category of partners. And the data actually shows that incubators and accelerators are the category identified with whom Investors for Impact collaborated the most. And that's, let's say, was not very surprising for us to observe this, as we believe incubators and accelerators play a very important capacity building role in the ecosystem, as Alessia mentioned before. And there are really a lot of synergies that can be exploited between incubators and among incubators and accelerators and Investors for Impact in giving exposure to pipeline, for example. I'd like now to present the third and last case that I will present today, which feature as Investors for Impact Smart Collective, which is an investor based in Serbia. Smart Collective works with the civil society organization and social enterprises, making them more efficient, entrepreneurial, and ultimately more sustainable through technical support, mentoring, training, and links with the private sector and funding. The investee is called Optimist, which is a company based in Bosilegrad, whose Optimist main vision is the economic empowerment of socially vulnerable families in the south of Serbia through the creation of working opportunities in agriculture. Optimist launched the program Circle of Philanthropy in 2011 with the specific goal of giving these families access to a wide range of resources like free plowed land, greenhouses, storage facilities, irrigation systems, strawberry seeding, and expert support in growing strawberries. In terms of financial and non-financial support provided, Smart Collective started with a matching grant. It means that Optimist needed to raise up to 4,000 euros, and Smart Collective matched them with the same amount. So in total, they received support of 8,000 euros for the first year. While in the second year, Optimist received an additional grant from Smart Collective of 7,000 euros. In terms of non-financial support provided, Smart Collective leveraged its own network and experts, who are usually contracted and sometimes are pro bono, to develop a wide range of non-financial services. So on top of this wide range of non-financial services, Smart Collective has been, since the very beginning, very active in proactively promote collaboration with, and they stressed this importance, and they really they encouraged Optimists to look for business partners that could be larger exporters who could become the co-investors or even buy the company at a later stage. But they also, this goal of developing strategic partnership with larger exporters since the very beginning had consequences on Optimus strategies, as they really focused on the development of new products since the very beginning, and they invested their profits and raised funds to obtain standard certifications, which would have facilitated the collaboration with other partners. Again, in 2017, actually, we developed a case study for optimists, and it is available on our website, and you can download it for free. I'm aware we have only 5 minutes left, but I now would like to pass the floor and understand from my colleague Alessia if there are some questions from the audience that we could answer and address in these 5 minutes. And if you have other questions, feel free to drop them in the section.
Yes, so thank you, Gianluca. We received a few questions, and the first one is about the most important concept, so the difference between impact investor and social entrepreneurs. So this is really the basic of all our narratives. So when we're talking about impact investors, and we can call them in different ways, as you have seen today, we are talking about those that are providing capital. So really those that are funding other organizations. And when we talk about social entrepreneurs, these are, of course, individuals that start a business, a social business, that receive money from impact investors. So as you can see in the slide, this is the model. So investors for impact, impact investors, and then you have social purpose organizations, which might also be social entrepreneurs. There was a second question, and I've seen my colleague Anya already provided some info about the role of impact investors in mobilizing also governments, in collaborating with governments and public sector. On day 3, so on Friday, my colleagues Anya and Catalina will run 2 sessions specifically dedicated to public and private, and to see the role of governments, EU institutions in the social ecosystem. So I advise you to subscribe to learn more about this collaboration, and also looking again at what my colleague Anya was sharing with the experts. Just for the audience to know, we just launched a Collab Award, through which we will collect lots of best practices in terms of public and private collaboration. So we can reshare maybe the link with all the participants, and you can access more information there.